Welcome, welcome. What are you at tonight? It is Rogers TV coming through with the swag, baby. It's Out of the Fog, and I'm so glad to be hanging out tonight with the best and the brightest across the province. We got Elling Lien coming in tonight to talk about RPM and his role within that incredible creative courage, inspired organization and effort, which has resulted in so much music, and we'll talk all about that after the break. And then Gary Milley, who has worked in recreation his whole career. Recreation NL is an important brand in the province. We're going to learn all about that, where it's been, where it's going, and how you can make you time. It is Out of the Fog, and we'll be right back after this break.
With NHL Center Ice, you get a premium ticket to the games you want every night of the season. Catch every key out-of-market matchup each week. You'll get more goals, more saves, more non-stop action from the teams you love. NHL Center Ice, part of the Rogers Super Sports Pack. All this for only $35.95 a month. Order through your remote on Channel 450 or call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Out of the Fog. So happy to be hanging out with my friends here tonight. And the first up is an amazing creative tour de force. So
Not true.
it's true. Elling, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. The fashion always. We were having a little jeans moment earlier, but the glasses too.
Oh, what? Oh.
I mean, is there anything you can't wear? Right?
I am very uncomfortable with you.
You woke up
Thank
that
you.
way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I love it.
I put thought into it.
I can talk about the hat as well, but I'm not going to go there. I want to talk, well, we'll double back towards the end. I want to talk about creative courage. You've changed my life, by the way. Just throw that in there.
Oh, okay.
Here's why.
Thank you.
Unpossible NL is an organization that's dedicated to creative courage. I grew up an artist and never understood the power and responsibility of creative courage until you coined the term in one of the meetings years ago, and I walked away being like, creative courage, man. Yes. And now almost every episode, no matter who I'm interviewing, I bring it back to that moment, because no matter what industry you're in, creativity is a part of everything, and the courage to put yourself out there or put something forth is, to me, an amazing thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, giving yourself the permission to be creative and to explore, and it's an important part of learning and important part of just figuring out what you're capable of.
Failing fast and the whole subject around that is very recent in society. Growing up, it wasn't that way. You weren't encouraged to make mistakes.
Yeah, you had to be perfect.
Exactly.
Now we can mess up all the time.
Perfect.
Yeah, just do it over and over. just pick yourself up. No, the idea is just if you get knocked down, pick yourself up. That's the central idea for creative courage. And for what I do, the RPM Challenge, I encourage people to make music. So if you like music, why not try to make it?
Totally. And now that sounds easy once you move through the hoops of what that means. If you've ever wrote a song or a rhyme or strummed a guitar or dinged a note on a passing keyboard, that's flirty. You're like, oh, maybe I could do this. But the RPM Challenge, in case you guys watching don't know, is an opportunity for you to put creative courage in the forefront and to musically try your hand at creating a song or 35 minutes of music.
It's a flexible length goal this year, actually. We've opened it up.
Wow.
Because previously it was, the RPM is a creative challenge to anybody to record music in the month of February.
That's right.
And previously it was 10 songs or 35 minutes of music, so an album. That's a big ask for people who are just getting their feet wet, or even professional musicians. It's a big ask. Anybody. So we were just like, why not just open it up? It's about giving people permission to try something. It's not a contest. So the only expectations are your own. Like you come into it with your own goals and making that change to a flexible length goal. So you can record a track, you can record an EP, you can record an LP, you can record a box set, you can record 30 songs, 100 songs, whatever you want. If you want to do that, go for it. Just like we want to give people that goal to set their eyes on and shoot for.
I think it's amazing. I think that the opening up the length is very timely because in the music industry in general, we're finding ourselves very much back in the 50s and 60s again, where it's about the single versus creating a full album. So music as an industry is evolving at the speed of life as well, which is, I guess, very timely for this change in the RPM recording challenge, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I love albums. I love it, finding an album that you can sit down and listen to the entire thing. Who has time for that now, I guess? But most of the music that we consume is bit by bit, so
yeah, it's
like
true.
track by track. But if one, album, there's nothing quite like an album.
It's
really.
true. And yet, to your point, the holistic experience of sitting down and putting on an album and uninterruptedly absorbing the energy of that, it's its own art.
Yeah, I mean, there's still that. I mean, like people buy records now,
Yeah.
The vinyl records, and that's the experience they're getting. They're just like putting it on, 20 minutes. You flip it over, you get 20 minutes.
It's funny because I think about the RPM and how many years it's been a vehicle for artists to try their hand at recording. And so many artists who have flirted with the idea of recording via the RPM challenge have gone on to become, full-time world touring musicians. It's true. Wow, you're a big star. Yeah. But it's amazing. Hey, it must make you feel proud.
Oh, so proud. So proud of every project. Like, even if it's like someone who sets out to make a terrible album. Like, I love those projects. There are those people. Like, actually, that's kind of inspiring. It's like, oh yeah, you can set out to make a bad album as well. So I love every project, but I'm very proud of the people who took their very first step into recorded music, and really that snowball just kept going and going and going. Like people like, Steve Maloney, Kat McLeavy,
Totally.
Young artist who's attending Berkeley right now in New York City, and it's going to take the world by storm. Watch out, everybody.
I follow.
Yes.
Yeah, huge fan.
But anyway, she's just started recording her own songs through the RPM, and that kind of thing really makes me proud. That it gave them permission to just do that, and then the door was cracked open wide enough that people could look in and be like, oh my God, wow, what is that?
Then they kick open that.
Yeah, and then they opened the door and felt more comfortable. They developed the creative courage. So that's work.
That's the theme.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that I'm sure if someone is passing by the TV and saying, what are they talking about now? What's going on? What would you like people watching this hang here to know about this year?
The RPM Challenge is open to everybody. It's not a contest, and people in Newfoundland really have taken it on. There are more than 100 albums that have been coming out of the RPM, Newfoundland and Labrador every single year for the past 10 years through the RPM.
Wow.
More than 100.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, the strength of the community. I mean, I could go wax poetic about what Newfoundland means, and the strength of the music community and the music heritage and things like that. But I think it comes down to the community. People love. They play music for each other. They play music for themselves, and there's this kind of overlap here that is just a sweet spot. And the RPM has, grown because of that.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your position within the RPM has grown as well, may we say.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but not to take the magic out of your mouth.
No, go for it.
But, Elling bringing the RPM here across the province now has a far more leadership stake in the equation.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, the RPM, it started in a little town in New Hampshire. It was a little little newspaper called The Wire in the seacoast town of Portsmouth that started this for their readers. And that first year, they were just blown away by the response and opened it up internationally the next year. And I was working at the Scope newspaper in 2006, and Brianna Greeno and I, we were like, wow, that would work really well in St. John's and in Newfoundland. And so we approached them and said, hey, why don't we bring that here? So that was in 2008 that we opened it up to people in St. John's, and got 22 albums that year. That was a lot of albums. But then the next year we got something like 46, and then 75, and then 86, and 105, or I don't know, on up until we're averaging about 110 every year.
So where can we go now in the final minute or so of our hang? Where can folks go online to figure out how to submit and become a part of this amazing movement?
Well, there's a new website, rpmchallenge.com. It's as easy as that right these days. You don't have to, you can find us on Facebook as well. Search for Newfoundland and Labrador and RPM Challenge, but the main, at the heart of it is at rpmchallenge.com.
So great.
Yeah.
Guys, just to wrap this before we head on to the old break, RPM recording challenge, try your hand. I don't care if it's a pot, pan, spoon, and you trying to make it work with your iPhone on record. Let's do it, because you don't know what you're going to unlock, and that's what creative courage is all about, and that's what Elling is all about. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Respect. Now we're going to talk about that hat in a minute. Right back after this break, guys. It's Out of the Fog.
All right, girls.
Mom, you said it's played again.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Out of the Fog, and like I mentioned before, it's so cool to be able to hang out with amazing people, making big moves, doing great things in our province to make our province a better place. And when you think about what makes us happy, what makes us better, it's activity. It's doing things that help feed our body, our mind, and our soul. And who knows better about that than the Executive Director of Recreation NL, the one and only Gary Milley. What are you at?
How's it going, Donnie?
It's going great.
Good.
Thanks for coming by.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, geez, we'll see you now at the end of it. I want to start at the start.
Yeah.
Recreation, when you hear it, what does it mean to you?
It means healthy living. And not just physical activity, but as you mentioned about body, mind, and soul, recreation is a refreshing, all-encompassing experience. And when you're younger, a child, it can be play. And as you get older, it's more around socialization and learning new skills. And as you age, it's about, again, providing supports in your life as other parts of your life fade away. In your older life, recreation, you're at it in your later years, recreation is like the glue that brings you back to the center of who you are. And so for me right now, I've gone through most of those earlier stages, and I'm in that later we call a boomer, post-boomer stage. And for me, it's about having friends, having social experiences, playing golf, playing cards, walking, talking, and just enjoying the experiences that are right in front of us, just outside our door every day. That's what I do, and that's what I like.
I love that. And yet recreation, as it pertains to the different phases of life that you just described, it can be very personal depending on what your hobbies and what your interests are.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the contextual part of what recreation is. It's not easy to describe. Lots of times as we go about our day-to-day work and activities, people see us, recreation sort of synonymous with sport. But at the same time, it is sport, but it's more than sport, and it's about learning a skill, contributing, even like being a volunteer sometimes in whether it's a service group or a Boys and Girls Club or somewhere else. Those are recreational experiences that certainly, I think people go through it without even actually consciously thinking that, oh yeah, that's a recreational activity, I must go out and get some more recreation. So they're doing all kinds of things, and I think what's so important today than, say, days gone by in the early days, that it used to be about playing and sports. Now there's an actual tangible health benefit from being involved in recreation. So you actually feel better when you are experiencing nature. You feel better when you're in a group or a club, or you're in a hobby. And sometimes your recreational experience is enriched by yourself. Like if you were, say if you're a bird watcher, or you like to collect coins or whatever, but then you might want to say, well, I don't want to do this by myself anymore, so you join a club. It could be a walking club, a hiking club, whatever the activity, a card club, a book club. And then the socialization takes place. So those are recreational experiences that make you feel good and strengthen your character. And it helps in this time when we're going through such a huge societal shift with COVID around the world. And people say there's nowhere to escape. Well, there is, because recreation can actually ground you and make up for some of the things that you don't have at your beck and call right now.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's one way to sort of describe it, just sort of occurred to me. You know, recreation is reconnection, because whether you're with friends or you're enjoying your own company, reading a book and some solitary activity, it's good for the soul, you know?
Yeah, and I think too, in the community sense, if you look around, Newfoundland is a wonderful culture, right? And it's really strange when nationally or internationally people look at Newfoundland, but I like to look at the communities and the cultures within Newfoundland. And I raised my family in the Gouls, and between the Gouls and say Chapassy, there's 30 different dialects. I mean, when you're talking to people as you're going down the shore, and I've met people that probably talked all those 30 different dialects as you went along. And that's and the things they do that are special to their communities. And I must say, having worked for my adult life as a career in recreation, and having the joy of being in many of these community celebrations and meeting the folks on the ground that are actually organizing and planning recreational activities, it's amazing. Don-E, I tell you right now that there's right from Nain, Lisa Ivney, the recreation director down in Nain, on to Wanda American is the facilities and recreation manager in Port Basque, and all places in between. It was just the other day I signed a letter off to Rita Penton, and I didn't realize it at first. And I looked at the address, I said, it's Rita Penton from Joe Bat's Arm. And Rita Penton from Joe Bat's Arm used to be on the board of directors of Recreation Newfoundland Labrador in the early days, when she was representing Joe Bat's Arm as a volunteer recreation leader. So I just think that those are the types of things when you see that here now, some 30, 40 years later, that person is still active. And there's another good friend in Centerville, Wareham Trinity, and they organized and ran a rink. They didn't have a full service rink. It was sort of a modified rink. And he started, and he's always pretty proud that he started in 1971, the same year that Recreation Newfoundland Labrador started. Wow. And as you go through, he spent about 35 of his years of his life as a volunteer running the rink for the people in Centerville, Wareham Trinity.
I guess it just goes to show that there are so many people across the province who live recreation, who feel a responsibility to provide those opportunities for the small and bigger places across the province. And I guess it's all about, as you guys in your new branding, celebrating 50 years, which you guys are doing this year, which is fantastic, making you time to do whatever it is you want to do, as long as you're doing something for yourself. So I ask you, how does it feel to be a wellness supporter? And how do you feel about the work that your team across the province does to deliver that for the benefit of the people in our province?
Now, Donnie, that's a big question.
I can take one bite at a time.
But I think in reality, it's always been there. I think when I started my career in the former town of Woodrow Park as a recreation director, I went in there as a small, sleepy town just outside of St. John's at the time. 9 streets, about 1,400 population, and then no schools, no churches, one business called the Kmart parking lot, the Kmart store, and they had a swimming pool.
That's right.
And I was hired on as the recreation leader. And it was just so amazing how the community gravitated to the pool, to the playground, and to the sense of community that recreation provided. So it was sort of a no-brainer. When you think about it, the term was coined back in the 80s, the quality of life. And from a municipal perspective, I can recall the mayor quite clearly saying to me, like, you know, we really enjoy what you're doing. Now, it's not so much what I was doing, but what I represented in recreation.
Sure.
Working with the children and the communities, families, setting up a Santa Claus parade or a bike rodeo for the kids or a fun day or a whole bunch of activities. And it just then rings so clear about, and I was involved with the vital signs process there with Rob Greenwood and them. And every year I tease out some of the things that are important, and a sense of community pride and belonging that comes with recreation. When people represent, where are you from? And they know that, did you know we have this facility? Did you know we run this program? And as well, I'd like to acknowledge the important work that volunteer organizations like the Guides and Brownies, the Boys and Girls Clubs, and then also service groups. A tremendous effort that service groups have put so much money into building and creating capacity in our communities. So as you go through, and if you could take all of those little pieces and put them in a package, there would be a lot of wellness in there. There would be a place where people can go and experience recreation.
Geez, time's flying by, but I'm loving the conversation. And it's so important to all of us across the province when it comes to recreation and what it truly means, far beyond the gym floors of life and right into the reconnection, making new time and wellness-related realities that make the organization so important to people across the province. Am I right?
Sure.
So I want to ask you, a lot of wellness ambassadors are lined up this year to help spread the good word about what recreation means. How many people do you have to thank that help power Recreation NL as an organization across the province, from staff to volunteers? I mean, how does it all happen?
Donnie, you certainly challenged me with those big questions, but I'm going to try and give you a bit of a clear answer.
Good.
In the sense that there are literally thousands of people, thousands of people who work in recreation, thousands more that volunteer in recreation, and even if they work and or volunteer in the direct delivery of recreation, there's still thousands more that are on the peripheral they're supporting. So every time you go into a community event or facility, there's always this nuance that this just happens. All these wonderful programs, all this magic of everything's ready for you when you start to participate in a program. But if you can go into any community center, any outdoor park or playground or trail system, there's always a wide range of people providing support in every step of the way, whether it's cleaning things up, and especially now with the responsibility there, creating ideas, engaging the community. I find this is one of the most important parts of our recreation delivery system, is they go out and they listen to what the needs of the citizens are. And so when participants come in, it's really based on what their needs are. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions sometimes, we're just offering this program or that program. But right now in our sector, it's more about understanding that it's not just about buildings and bricks and mortar. It's about getting outdoors, and it's about using all of our resources, and to make sure that when people have the time, and we talk sometimes about having to make the time, people should feel that their time is you time. And they should be going to our local recreation providers, service providers, talking to their town councils and municipal leaders about how important it is for them to have time.
Tell you what, guys, what you're going to see all over social media and beyond this year is the new brand of Recreation NL, the 50th year anniversary celebration, and all sorts of proud Newfoundlanders from Patrina Bromley, Carl English, Mike Wall, Amelia Curran, and they're going to have messages for you all throughout the year to help all of us understand how important recreation is to each of us in the province. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us tonight.
Thanks, Donnie.
And send all the respect back to the amazing team that works at Recreation NL for me, would you?
Will do, for
Love
sure.
it. Guys, this is Out of the Fog. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in here to Out of the Fog on this beautiful old Thursday night, and however many other times you're going to see this show during the week. From the one and only Elling Lien talking about RPM, creative courage, and how you can get involved to record an album in the month of February on now. Check out RPM in the Google machine to learn more information about how easy and empowering it is to record your own creative work. And as we watch all these credits pan by, I want to also thank Gary Milley from Recreation NL. They are wellness supporters, and they believe in the power of making you time. So go do something nice for yourself, would you? It's Out of the Fog, and we'll see you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line.